couple of years, used guitar gear seems to have gone up in price. There's plenty of pedals out there that you used to be able to get for cheap prices, and now they're sought after and demand a premium. But that's not the case with all guitar gear. There's plenty of equipment out there that is not sought after, and the used prices reflect this. A lot of the time it's digital, because analog gear has pretty much been perfected. It's not really being improved upon, there's not a huge amount of updates. But with digital, over just the last 10 years, it's come on leaps and bounds. And well, that means that things that came out 10 years ago have competitors that make them outdated. The competitors either do what they did and more, or do what they did and do it better. While this is bad news if you're selling, it's great news if you're buying. Not everybody needs the newest piece of gear. And, well, there's plenty of equipment out there that's really good at good prices. And I want to show you a piece of gear today that falls into that category. Something for a good price that no one's really talking about. This is the TC Electronic Nova system. It came out in 2008, so it's coming up on 14 years old. The example I have here is the limited version, which came out in conjunction with Bumblefoot. But aside from the red colouring and a couple of different presets, it's the exact same model as the standard coloured version. But what was the Nova system? Well, TC called it a compact, floor-based processor for guitar effects, with 6 effects blocks, analog drive, and flexible operation. So there's 2 different sections of the Nova system. The drive, which is analog, and the rest, which is digital. You could bypass the drive if you wanted to by using the line input instead of the drive input, and this would make sense if you were using it with your amp's effects loop. But for this demo, I'm going to be using it in the front of the amp with the drive. The amplifier I'm using is the DV Mark Micro M50. It's a solid state amp, and I'm using it on the clean channel with a pretty flat clean. Here's how it sounds. You'll see me using 2 guitars in this demo, and I'll explain why in a couple of minutes. But the first one is the Ormsby GTR Futura, and that's tuned to D standard, which is a full step down, and this ESP LTD EX100. This is a much more budget-friendly guitar, but it's still very good. It's made in Korea, ebony fretboard, and the previous owner put in some Seymour Duncan pickups, specifically in the bridge, the Dime Booker, so it's a pretty high output. And this was actually the second guitar I ever bought. The effects in the Nova came from the, at the time, flagship unit, the G system, and they're pretty good. Most TC effects are. Sadly, it can't be programmed to do any wet-dry rigs, but you can use it for stereo if that's your thing. Looking closely at the blocks on the Nova system, we have drive. This can be either overdrive or distortion, but importantly, this really isn't a metal player's unit. While there is a decent amount of drive, there's not as much as you might think, and when you do max it out, it can get quite flubby, and there's not really a lot you can do to change that. There's a tone control on the drive, but that's about it, and in the demo you're about to hear, the tone was at 80%. Not a huge amount of gain if you're a really heavy player, but probably enough for a lot of people's practical applications. Then we've got comp, and there's 3 different types of compression in there. I've never really been a compression user, never really suited my style of playing, but that's not to say there aren't uses for it. And if you like compression, then the advanced compression mode you might really like on the Nova system. You can really dial it in, and for some country type playing, it works really well. Remember, this is with a high output Dime Booker. There's EQ and noise gate. This block isn't foot switchable though. It's just turned on and off using the top button. But you can also get pretty detailed with this. There's a dedicated boost switch which you can dial in, and it can be pretty loud if you want it to be. This is a 6 dB boost, but you can go louder if that's what you wanted. Modulation with 6 effects. Chorus, flanger, vibrato, phaser, tremolo, and panner. Then there's pitch with 5 effects. Shifter, octave, and in this demonstration I used the octave with the Ormsby GTR, and I really didn't get very favourable results. Everything was fine until I reached the low E, which was tuned 1 step down to D, which wouldn't be unusual for most players, I don't think. That's just drop D. But it really had trouble trying to isolate that low octave, and it just kind of sounded out of tune at some points. So I switched over to the LTD, which was in standard tuning, and then it worked fine. There's whammy, which can be used with an external expression pedal, detune, and intelligent pitch. The intelligent pitch is a harmonizer, and it'll harmonize with you in different keys and different scales. It kind of reminds me of the Steve Vai type effects that he used to use. Then there's delay. There's 6 delays and most are pretty standard, but my favourite is the dynamic delay. It's like ducking delay, so if you've got it set long and with a lot of repeats, that would normally make everything muddy if you were playing a lot of notes. But here it will identify if you're playing a lot of notes and will duck the level of the delay and then bring it back up when you've finished playing. Then there's reverb. Very standard, but still high quality reverbs. Spring, hall, room and plate. Nothing fancy like Strymon stuff, but these are good. So sound demo out of the way, I want to talk about a few things that I like and a few things I don't like about this unit. On the back you've got 5-pin MIDI in, through and out, which is really useful if you've got an amplifier which is also MIDI. I used to use this to change the channels on my Blackstar head, and it would change the channels seamlessly with patches. Really useful. It's also small and light. I used this a few times as my carry-on rig for flights, and it was perfect for that. It also feels like it's built like a tank. It's not going to break very easily. There are a few negatives though. Aside from not having a huge amount of gain, which I suppose is a preference thing, there's the tuner. Or, as I like to call it, absolutely useless. This was supposed to be a professional, compact pedal board solution in one unit, but every person that I've seen using one has always had a tuner pedal to the side of it. Very disappointing. If you like stacking multiple effects, this probably isn't for you, because you can't do that. You get one effect per block, which means something like stacking a chorus and a vibrato is out of the question. It's probably not a major thing for most people, but if that's your playstyle, then this would affect that. And if you're the type of person who likes to have effects in certain orders, be it their reverb in front of their delay or vice versa, this unit also probably isn't for you. It's in a set order that you can't change. I assume it's the left to right on the top, but I actually can't find any information as to how it's stacked internally. Again, probably something that really doesn't affect the vast majority of people, but if you want to get nerdy about it, it's worth mentioning. It's also probably worth mentioning that some users of the Nova system have reported that their unit has frozen. Now, this has never happened to me before, but it's worth mentioning because it's part and parcel of buying old gear. If this happens to you, you're on your own. The TC Electronic that made the Nova system is not the same TC that's out today. But hey, this is a 14-year-old discontinued product. We can't expect it to keep up with modern units that are out today. And for its age, I think, at least on the effects side, it comes very close to a lot that are out there today. But there are some aspects of this where it really does show its age, and that would be the speaker simulator. It's important to remember that this was not designed to be an amp simulator. It wasn't designed to be a cabinet simulator either, and that's evident because there is only one. No settings, you either turn it on or off. And I wouldn't advise you going direct with this, but if you have to, it's certainly advisable to be using the speaker simulator. Here's what it sounds like without the speaker sim. Yeah, it's not great, but with the speaker sim, it at least becomes somewhat usable. It's not great sounding, and doesn't really get very much better when you put effects on it either. I'd put this in a last resort category. It's better to have a speaker sim than none at all, but it would pale in comparison to every speaker sim out there today. Oh, and to use it, you sacrifice the EQ and noise gate block, so you can't use them with the speaker sim on. But now we know about the negatives, let's talk about the big positive, the price. I've seen these on Reverb for €140. That's like $160. And for that price, you're getting a bunch of really high quality effects. Sure, the drive could be better and there could be more gain, and yeah, the tuner isn't very reliable, but the rest of it's pretty good. For the price that these are going for now, it might be a really good option for people who are looking for some high quality effects on a budget. It's not going to be for everyone, but it might just be for you. So that's the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.